Okay, that's fine. At least I have a shield, so in case they are really running Solar Beam on their A9 or Ninetales, I could shield it. Oh my gosh. This Mercargo's popping off. They have another Charmer in the back, maybe? Oh. I don't think I could solo the whole team. Nah. I could bring in Lapras here, but I prefer to just let them wonder what the third Pokemon is until I drop a YouTube video. Hey everyone, I hope you've been enjoying some of the updates to GBL Season 10, particularly some of the movesets and the new buffs. I know a lot of people have been testing out Shadow Ball and Noctowl, but I personally really want to give Magcargo a try. The last time I used Magcargo was almost a year ago during the Love Cup, and I think it has a lot of play, especially in Remix, because of its ability to really wall off things like Froslass. So a line that I've been running in Great League Remix is Rainy Castform with Shadow Lapras and Magcargo in the back. This is not my first Shadow Lapras line, so like always, if you don't have Shadow Lapras, feel free to use a regular one. It'll serve a great purpose as well. But again, Shadow Lapras, a very, very strong safe swap. I chose not to run Rock Tomb, even though it got a recent buff, just because it's actually more energy than Stone Edge, but it does less damage. And in my opinion, I'd rather have the extra damage and the lower energy cost than the debuff. Overheat's just a really hard-hitting nuke, and you're going to kind of see an action for today, so definitely want Overheat as a second move. Before I get into battles, a big shout out and thank you to all my patrons who've been supporting my content creation. If you would also like to have early access to some of my strategies and lineups, or see behind-the-scenes footage of my battles, feel free to sign up in the Patreon link down below. So, I know a lot of people are probably thinking, this team is really weak to fighters. You don't really have a fighter check, and that is true. So I'm going to show you kind of how to play out the fighters. Obviously in the lead, you definitely want to stay in. Sometimes in the back end mons, you want to just draw out the fighters. Rainy Catz has more neutral matchups here. I'm going to let it go at this point though, because now it is easily able to be handled by my Lapras. And yeah, so we're going to see what they have in the back. And it's going to be a Alolan Raticate. So this Raticate, it is running Bite too, so it's going to get to its charge moves a little bit slower than the Quick Attack variant. I'm just going to stay in here and I guess a shield because they really don't want to see this Lapras for some reason. And let's see what they have in the back. It's going to be Crobat, so either way, I'm in a good spot. Both Lapras and Magcargo can handle this. Crobat really solid against the poisons too. I didn't mention that earlier, but resisting all of that poison damage is quite nice because there are quite a few poisons in this meta. So in this situation, it's a Lickitung. You don't know. I didn't know it yet at the time, but I kind of guessed it because they insta-swapped to Primeape here. They're running a double fighter line. These are definitely a little bit more rare from my experience in Great League Remix. This is the only one I ran into, but some of my patrons who had access to this line ahead of time said that they faced a few too. What is the win con here? It's a good question. It is actually very, very tough. I wasn't so sure if it definitely was double fight or not until I saw this Machamp, and yeah, that's pretty much going to be it. What I could have done is potentially thrown Overheat there and then swapped, but I still would have gotten outpaced. I also got a little bit of lag there, which is not ideal. But yeah, double fighters, unfortunately, that's probably a game you instantly take an L, but I figure I show it anyway, just to, you know, let you all know, inform you, know what you're signing up for when you use this lineup. Again, not a line I see very commonly. In fact, the only time I faced one. All right, Cresselia lead. A pretty tough one. It's got Grass Knot for both the Rainy Castform and the Lapras. You definitely want the Magcargo on it because you're going to resist both. You're going to resist the Moonblast, and you're going to take neutral from Grass Knot, which is not the end of the world. So I do let my Lapras finally go there. And then I'm going to let this Grass Knot go. They actually go Moonblast. Again, these are kind of advantages of using Pokemon that are less commonly seen because people might not know the typing. As you can see there, the Grass Knot would have been a far better move. But I'm going to drop this Overheat here, which might have not been the best call, but they actually no-shield it, surprisingly. So that's actually quite nice. And now I could just farm down this Drapion. I have a feeling this Rainy Catz is going to be pretty solid for the back end, and it has some play. I go straight for the Thunder because I'm close to that next Stone Edge. My opponent's still choosing not to shield. And I'm probably just going to Incinerate down at this point. Yeah. I didn't really want to risk them shielding and potentially be able to farm down my Rainy Cast. So I decided to just farm down with the Incinerates because the wing attacks are quite resisted. All right, Diggersby. You have 2 checks to Diggersby. Obviously, in the back, when you have it locked into the Magcargo, is quite bad. But as long as you get around that, so the Lapras has a lot of play too. This could potentially be double flyers. That would make sense because you want 2 checks to fighters in the lead, as well as these flyers are not terrible against water leads. Let's see what they come in with. They come back in with that Diggersby. I actually pivot away here, and here we see the double flyers. Main reason why I did that is because I'm already debuffed, so I'd rather save the Magcargo in case it has some play in the back end. So let's see what the case is here. I am able to water gun down the Noctowl, and I still have a lot of play with this Rainy Cast. I'm going to shield just because I have some energy built up. Why not? And I guess a double shield. Yeah. They can't really mud shot me down. They're going to take a lot of water gun damage, so they're probably going to have to throw another fire punch. But I actually decided to pivot straight to my Magcargo and finish it off with the overheat. I didn't even use my Lapras in that match. I think sometimes, especially early on, trying not to showcase my entire lineup against opponents in case I match up with them later, or yeah, mainly to prevent the sharing of info until I drop these YouTube videos, in my opinion. All right, so team that you've seen probably in various iterations in various leagues. Empoleon Double Charm. I didn't know it's Double Charm at the time, but I kind of had a feeling anyone that safe swaps a Charmer that quickly is probably running Double Charm. This person actually no shields or overheat. Kind of ridiculous. This Magcargo is doing a ton of work, taking out 2 Pokemon by itself, and still doing a little bit of damage to his Shadow Granbull too. At this point in time, yeah, they are not going to be able to outpace, and I get to Weather Ball again, not needing to show the Lapras. Going against my friend Panic here. This is a interesting, more neutral matchup. What I like to do is tank a crunch and then swap out. Main reason being, in case I get debuffed too, I don't really want to get debuffed first and then, you know, on my Lapras. So I do get debuffed there. But at least he dumped a bunch of energy. I have some energy stored on my Rainy Cast too. He actually swaps in a Dugong. So this means that his backline is probably not very strong to Magcargo either, because if he had a fighter, he would have probably came in already. If he had an Empoleon, he probably would have came in already. So again, our switch timers are a little misaligned, and so I don't mind aggressively swapping over, and he's swapping back over too, so we're doing a lot of swap mind games here, which definitely makes the matchup a little bit interesting. I'm not debuffed at the moment on my Rainy Cast, which is nice, I believe. Yeah, I don't think he threw Icy Wind at me. Yeah, he stored some energy and left, so that's why I decided to shield there. He's actually running Aqua Tail on his Drapion, which I don't see very often, but I could see some utility in this meta. Didn't think he had a Water Pulse, so I decided no shield, and then he does have a Froslass and decides to concede right there. So the team is also really solid against Froslass. You have 3 things that beat Froslass. Lapras is probably the hardest, not the best to go against Froslass. So Ferrothorn, definitely something I have pretty much no play against, so I really want to win switch here, which is why I go for the Skull Bash. This makes my back end matchup a little bit easier in my opinion. I could just no shield the Drill Peck and go straight for the Surfs. My opponent actually decides to no shield. Kind of interesting. They must have another very solid check to Rainy Cast and back. They don't need switch advantage, so I'm going to just tank this move here and see what happens. They are running probably Thunder and Mirror Shots, or Thunder and Power Whip, because they didn't throw a Mirror Shot earlier. And so, as you can see there, they go straight for the Power Whip. They have a Trev. So it's actually an ABA Grass line, which works out perfectly for the Magcargo. So here's the main strategy of Magcargo. It's weak to a lot of things. It's double weak to water. It's double weak to ground. It's weak to fighting. It takes neutral from grass. It doesn't have the best typing. I'll put it that way. But you want the Lapras to take the majority of the damage from the things that are strong against it. So like here, for example, that safe swap Lapras, able to draw them a champ. Now obviously if I have a double fighter, then I'm screwed either way. But you ideally want to protect your Magcargo to the point where you never really see it in bad matchups. At worst, you see it in neutral. At best, you see it in good matchups. In fact, this is actually how I play my Bastion lines a lot of times when my Bastion's in the back. Very similar concept. Even though it's a Pokemon that has a lot of polarizing matchups, just like Bastion. It's not nearly as strong as Bastion, but you can't use Bastion in this meta. Something with so many polarizing matchups, you want to set yourself up for a situation where you have a lot of potential. Able to just finish off the Pidgeot there, keeping it quite close, but again, you have him in champ in the back, so that's always a win you'll take any day. All right, Kofa Gregus counter swap into Lapras. Here's where that Shadow Lapras really comes in handy. When you shield these moves, they take a while to get to their moves. They actually do Psychic, which is pretty smart because if they're running Psychic Shadow Ball, you at least get a potential debuff, and Psychic will still do a good chunk of damage. But in those situations, this Lapras can really flip the switch advantage here, and that's exactly what I do. And able to still do a good chunk to this Noctowl as well. We get a shield back, so I have switch advantage now, and we're both on 0 shields. And this Noctowl is almost taken out by the Lapras. So this Lapras put in a lot of work, almost taking out the Noctowl and taking out the Kofa Gregus. And at this point in time, I have the alignment I want, and yeah, able to probably pretty much flip this. Earthquake is going to hurt, but it's just not enough, and they can't really throw a Fire Punch. I will say that Rainy Cast form, it's not nearly as strong as it was a few weeks ago to maybe a few months ago, I guess, ever since they nerfed Weather Ball. Because you're going to see in some of these matchups, the reduced damage in Weather Ball actually changes quite a bit in some of these matchups. In this specific case, I'm going straight for Thunder, so we're not going to see it, but we'll see it in some of the later matches. That's kind of a gamble there, right? I either land or don't, but I figured because they landed their Hurricane, I'm just going to go for it and grab a shield at the very least. They come in with their Regiseal. They go straight for the Focus Blast. What I really want to do is put this low enough so that my Lapras has some play against it. Shields on Lapras is pretty good. They actually no shield there. So I'm going to go for another Overheat. Again, this is just neutral, so even though I'm debuffed, I can still do something here. I'm trying to swap out, so I'm going to throw another Overheat just to kind of burn the switch timer, and so I can swap here. And now I'm in a good spot because I'm able to land a Surf, force a shield, and still have my Magcargo in the back. I do shield the Earthquake here. This Hurricane's going to hurt, but my main thing is if they take out my Lapras, and you can see I actually got to Surf, I purposely want them to take me out. Why? Is because these wing attacks aren't going to hurt, and I know they don't get to a Weather Ball in time after these Incinerates proc through. I need energy for this Diggersby, and able to finish off the Diggersby with an Overheat. Despite Diggersby having a really solid matchup there, those Overheats, like I said before, hurt quite a bit. These are one of those matchups where the Weather Ball nerf definitely does hurt. They actually still shield anyway. The good news about most electrics, maybe all electric, is they still take neutral from water. So despite how bad it is, it's still, not great. So in most situations, I actually swapped to Lapras, but in that situation, I was hoping to catch a Wild Charge, which I did. Also preventing the Machamp from getting some additional farm, and I didn't have to spend a shield. If I swapped to Lapras there, I still have to spend a shield. So at this point, my goal is to just whittle down their Machamp. I'm taking a lot of counter damage though, but the Surf can definitely come in handy and one-shot the Magnezone. I don't know what they have in the back at this point though. And it's going to be a Whiscash. This is not ideal. Whiscash does lose to Lapras in most situations, but I'm really low on health, and I don't think I can outpace. It's super bulky. Even though I threw that Surf a little bit earlier, I wanted to overfarm because I knew that Surf wouldn't be enough to KO, and I wanted something for that Magnezone. Electric Lead's pretty tough, I will say that, because they're good against the Rainy Cast form as well as Lapras. Alright, Froslass though, a very fantastic lead. The whole team actually has a lot of play against it, so I'm going to shield the Shadow Ball. Shadow Ball is going to still hurt quite a bit. I do get to another Weather Ball as well, and they shield it. So I'm probably going to shield this too. It's probably going to be another Shadow Ball, and it is. So clearly this Rainy Cast form has some play against the backline. It's a Greedent. Pretty neutral against most of this team. I think Magcargo is the best against it though, because you are resisting the Body Slam, so they have to go Crunch, which is a little less energy efficient. they actually have a Machamp in the back. This is kind of odd. I'm surprised they didn't swap out sooner because both Machamp and Greedent have decent matchups against Rainy Cast, so they wouldn't be stuck in that situation. But because of the way they played it out, it actually made this match a little closer than I anticipate. Usually speaking, people bring in the fighter earlier, or Greedent earlier, so I could line up the Magcargo against the Froslass. But either way, I am able to get to this last overheat to finish off the Greedent. That nuke is super useful. That's why I don't recommend running double rock moves. That overheat is quite nice in my opinion. Now this is one of those matchups where the Weather Ball nerf hurt a lot. Before the Weather Ball nerf, this was actually a pretty easy matchup for Rainy Castform. Rainy Castform should be able to beat Whiscash in all even shields before the nerf. Now if you watch this Whiscash is actually putting this matchup super close and actually flips it. With that extra Weather Ball damage, you would have been fine. You wouldn't have gotten hit by that last Mud Bomb, but that's something to note. Probably one of the main reasons why Rainy Cast is not nearly as popular as it was before. Plus, there's just so many other good mons in Open Great League. But Remix, I still like it a lot. So we get rid of the Whiscash though. That is the biggest impediment to Magcargo in most situations, as long as they have a fighter as well. And if that's the case, that's the case. I'm going to let this go. I can farm down the Registeel at this point. They actually go Flash Cannon, so that's nice. And then now I'm able to get a decent amount of farm. There's probably another Flash Cannon, but I decided to shield anyway, just in case. And it's a Trev. So very solid for me right here. I am going to go for the Stone Edge and then go for the Overheat after. Stone Edge will still do a ton of damage, so there's really no reason for them not to shield it. But yeah, able to finish it off. Again, you want that Magcargo to be protected in the back so that it has optimal matchups in the very end. All right, what I like to do against Greedent is I usually like to tank a Body Slam and then swap out, have some energy banked. Maybe they have a fighter in the back or something. Maybe that energy will come in handy. Greedent is usually used to check waters in a lot of situations because that Bullet Seed and Body Slam combo is actually pretty deadly for a lot of waters. I'm going to let this Body Slam go at this point. I've already done quite a bit of work against... the Greedent's done quite a bit of work against my team. I just can't risk continually to shield. So they come in with a Pelipper. This is actually kind of bad for me. I do throw the Surf right away, and I do actually try to snipe down the Pelipper or force them to shield. They actually don't shield. At this point, I'm going to just let this go. I'm going to shield the Weather Ball from... Oh, they actually bait here, which is, I guess, not super surprising because they could just go double here. But now they're out of energy. I can farm down with the Magcargo. They actually got to another Weather Ball. I definitely have to shield this at this point. But shields are down. Greedent with double flyers in the back makes a lot of sense because you need to protect them from fighters. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you enjoyed the lineup. Definitely let me know how Magcargo goes for you if you decide to use this line. I think it's a ton of fun. I actually accidentally queued up into Open Great League a few times as well and was still able to win with this line, which is always a good time. If you like this video, feel free to give it a like and share. Now that YouTube actually got rid of dislikes, I kind of don't really know how people think about these videos if you're not commenting. So if you have any feedback, you've disliked the video in any way, drop in the comments so I know. Only way to improve is really getting some feedback, and I'm personally not a big fan of the dislike button disappearing. I'd rather see how many people are disliking my videos, but if you're a disliker, voice your opinion, let me know. If you'd like to see more content, feel free to subscribe, hit that notification bell to get alerted right when I post a new video, and I'll see y'all next time.